Don't know that we keep doing that forever, but right now, with everything as crazy as it is, we're trying to accommodate everybody. We're good? All right. Thank you, Buffy. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And welcome to, let's see, December 14th, 2021. This is our general meeting for the month of December. And in case it's not already obvious for anybody that is not aware of this, we are moving all of the general meetings to the second Tuesday of the month. You'll see some reminders in here about that as we go through. But that is going to help make sure that we can be here and continue to do everything that we want to do. So again, welcome. I know we do have quite a few people that are still out. Bell, do we have microphone? Do we have sound in the background? Is the music still playing? Or is that my phone? Hold on. I think it's my phone. Okay. Yeah, it is my phone. All right. Well, it just decided to start playing. That's a lot of fun. Okay. Yeah, I'll get rid of that. I was hearing voices, so I was a little worried. All right. So again, welcome to our meeting today, and let's go ahead and get things rolling. For anybody that is not aware, CFRI is, of course, a nonprofit organization. We'll talk more about that piece of it in just a moment. We are actually one of the largest, if not the largest, nonprofit REIAs in the country. And our whole goal here is to try and make sure that we are providing a lot of good information for everybody that participates. Now, some of that is obviously here in the meetings. Some of it's going to be in some of the other general, some of the focus group meetings, the county meetings, and from time to time, you'll see that we do other classes as well. We don't have any, I don't think we have anything on the calendar for December, but you can expect to see several new ones starting in January and February. We're going to be trying to continue to do things like our Junkers to Jewels and other ones that some of you will have seen in the past. And if you haven't had a chance to participate in those, we'll be talking about them, so you'll hear more about them. But our goal is to try and provide an opportunity for everybody to learn more about how you do real estate investing ethically and to provide you with as much information as possible. Make sure you also have opportunity to network with people. Again, like I said, there's still quite a few people in there talking with vendors as well. Now, one of the things that we want is that we as CFRI are not the experts in the field. So when you are working on real estate investments, you want to make sure that if you need legal advice, you consult somebody who is an expert in the field. Now, we do have a lot of good experts that you can partake of that are business members of CFRI. If you have not ever been on the CFRI website and you are a CFRI member, you can log in, you can go to the page where it shows you the business members, and you can see and find different ones that are out there. You can also, again, take advantage of that whole networking thing and either talk to some of the vendors that are at the vendor tables or ask some of the folks in here that appear very knowledgeable. So again, make sure that you're consulting people that are experts in the field. We're not here to give you that advice. We're here to provide the opportunity for you to learn. Now, one of the things that we do quite frequently is make sure that you have an opportunity to continue networking, and you will find that a lot of our meetings, you'll hear people talk about the meeting after the meeting. So today, the meeting after the meeting will be held at Winter Park's Ale House in Winter Park Village. That's not far from here on 1251 Lee Road. One of the panelists that will be up here in just a little while, Todd Hutcheson, we don't see them up here yet, but one of the panelist, Todd Hutcheson, will be typically the person who kind of organizes that, and you can ask him more about it. But you will find that a lot of deals, a lot of networking, a lot of things happen at meeting after the meeting. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can partake of, by all means, take advantage of it. And one of the other things that you should be aware of is that CFRI is not just on the website, but we're also on social media. So once you become a member of CFRI, you can join the CFRI members only Facebook page, which constantly has a lot of good information being shared on it. One of our board members that handles the legislative stuff, his name is Rob Arnold, is constantly on the lookout for new laws and different types of legislation that will potentially affect what we do and what our business world is like. And he is constantly putting information out there. So if you have not taken advantage of some of the social media channels, again, make sure you do that. Now, CFRI is, again, not just a REIA, but it is also part of a larger organization called National REIA or NREIA. And by being a participant and part of NREIA, that makes sure that all of our members get to take advantage of all of the benefits of being part of NREIA. Now, if you're wondering what those benefits are, well, take a look at the screen here. So these are some of the pre-negotiated discounts and other types of things that we get access to once you are a member of CFRI, because we are part of National REIA. And I'll tell you about a couple of those in particular. I have not used every single one of these, probably several of them, but there are, again, a lot of good discounts that you can take advantage of. A couple of examples. One of them that you will hear a lot of people talk about is the Home Depot program. Now, with the Home Depot program, you can get, you see some of the rebates up there, 2% on purchases. They have a paint program. There are other things that you can take advantage of. But how that works is you need to register with Home Depot with their website. And once you have a Home Depot account, you need to make sure that the email address you are using with Home Depot is the same email address you're using with CFRI. That is important. We learned this by talking to the Home Depot rep, because he said every once in a while they go through and they double check so the email addresses match up, because if somebody's trying to take advantage of it, but they're not really part of CFRI, they're not going to get the discounts. Now, the way that 2% discount works is a purchase rebate. So a couple of times a year, they will send you a rebate back. But again, the only way you're going to get that is if those email addresses match up. The other thing you have to do is, you'll notice in big blue letters down here, NREIA is the code, that the way that you actually take advantage of this is you go on Home Depot's website, you create that account, and under cards, you can list all of your credit cards, all of your gift cards, everything that you might pay with. Just make sure they all have that NREIA code next to them. And then Home Depot tracks that, and you will get that rebate purchase. And you can get a ton of money. Greg, I see your thumbs up. What was the last one you got? 150 or 750? 750, yes. And we have seen, you know what, I wish, he's not in here right now, but I was going to say, I wish Phil Georges was in here, because the project that he was working on that we talked about, if you did not see last month's meeting, make sure you go back and watch it on YouTube, because the deal of the month that Phil Georges did was about a building that was rehabbed in New York. It was a historical building, and millions of dollars were spent, and you can imagine what happens if you're charging all that at Home Depot over time. His rebate check was impressive. I don't remember the exact total, but it was a lot. All right, so anyway, how do you find out more about, for example, that program, or how to register for it, or how do you find out what we do have as our resources? The way you do that is you go to the CFRI website. So CFRI.net, you can find not just the business member listing, you can find the member listing, you can find the policies and procedures, you can find the calendar, you can sign up for every event that we're going to do. Speaking of which, once you are a member of CFRI, one of the things we encourage everybody to do, and is super helpful, is make sure when you're going to go to a meeting, you go to the website and sign up in advance, letting us know that you plan to come to the meeting. There still are a few places that we are meeting that we're kind of limited on capacity, and it's a lot easier to make sure in advance if we're going to have an issue. Another way that you can find out more information is to take advantage of the monthly newsletter. We typically have that out by the first of the month. This month's cover is right up there on the screen. You can see it. There's usually several helpful articles in the magazine. And here lately, one of the things that we have had towards the back of the magazine is more about how to sign up for that Home Depot program and how to use it. So lots of good resources there. In fact, you can see all of the newsletters if you really want a lot to read by going to CFRI.net. All right. So I told you that all of our general meetings like this are now moving to the second Tuesday of every month. That's a little bit unusual for people that have been here for a long time, but again, it is going to help us make sure that we can continue to meet in here. So that's why we are doing that. Now, the other meetings that we have, the county meetings and the focus group meetings, most of those are being held in person. There still are two, I believe, Seminole County and Osceola County, that we just cannot meet in those locations just yet. So those are still being held via Zoom, but pretty much everything else is in person. If you want to find out if the meeting is being held and more about the meeting, where do you go? You go to CFRI's website and you can find the calendar there and learn more about it. Now, if you are not currently a member of CFRI, this is my part where I get to tell you, hey, you should be. But if you're really not sure you want to commit for an entire year, guess what? You have an opportunity to actually try it out. We have a new trial membership that you can try 3 months, one person, $75. It expires 90 days from the date you sign up. But I really think that what you'll find is you really actually want to be a member. So of course, we also have a discount going on right now for anybody that does want to go ahead and sign up and be a member for a whole year. You just have to use code WINTER21, saves you $25. Or if you have questions about any of that, including, hey, wait a minute, what if I want to try it out, but then I want to maybe sign up afterwards? If you have any questions on that type of stuff, just make sure you talk to Buffy at the table that is right outside the room, and she will answer any of your questions. Now, make sure you stay in your seats all the way to the very end, because we are going to be doing some giveaways after our panelists are done talking today. We have some gift cards that we are going to give away that could come in as that extra little handy purchase here at the end of the year and get it paid for. So don't forget, you need to be here and in your seats in order to win that. We will be calling names out, and obviously, if you're not here when we call your name, you don't win. We move on to the next person. All right, it is time to do a little bit of recognition. And for this, I need the current board members, if you are in the room, to come to the stage. And I would like a round of applause from everybody as they come to the stage. Thank you. Sounds like a golf clap rather than a rousing round of applause, but that's all right. It is a little hard to see with the lights, so that's all right. All right, the reason that we want to call all of these folks to the stage, come on over here, Chad, is, run to the stage, no, I'm just kidding. The reason we want to have everybody up here on the stage is because we want to recognize all of these people because they have given 12 months of their time. Everybody that you see that is part of CFRI for the board, these are all volunteer positions. We do not get paid. We volunteer our time to do this in various capacities. No, you are not getting a check. I'm sorry. I don't care that you're the treasurer. You're not cutting a check. It doesn't work that way. No, and in all seriousness, all of these people, I've gotten a chance to work with them all year. They have all done a fabulous job, and you can see who they are and their names and everybody up here. But I do have a gift for each of you, so you actually are going to get paid. Wow. So that one's for you. Thank you, Greg. David. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Stephen. And Chad is on the end. Thank you, everybody. And for anybody that didn't show up, well, I'll make sure they get theirs. No. Bye. No, in all seriousness, again, these are not paid positions. Again, we work on a volunteer basis. These guys have done a fabulous job. Several of them are going to be serving again with us next year. A couple of them are going on to bigger and better things. But I would like for you guys to give them, again, one more round of applause because they have done a fabulous job making sure that we can do all this. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Yes. Thank you. You certainly may. Go for it.
Jay is a very humble person, guys. Jay and Buffy in the back do a tremendous amount. You guys don't know what goes into planning this stuff day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out in a COVID era. So I know we already gave a round of applause for some of the directors, but the real people who need it is Buffy, who's trying to elude us. I see you, Buffy. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Jay has been a phenomenal leader for CFRI through these turbulent times. So thank you for everything that you've done, bud.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody. Yes. Yes, I would love to have Lindsey for a second, if you don't mind. All right. So we do have one other person we want to recognize, not just Buffy, who, in case anybody did not know it, Buffy is kind of the engine that makes everything go. She is one of the, we have 2 paid staff members, and Buffy is one of them. The other one we are calling to the stage right now, and that is Lindsey. Come on up here, Lindsey. Wow, where's that round of applause? Thank you. All right. So Lindsey helps Buffy out. And again, if there's something that needs to be done, somehow Lindsey just manages to take care of it. I don't know how she does it, but she does a great job. Lindsey, that is for you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you very much. All right. Appreciate everybody bearing with that. Again, like I said, it's a volunteer position. So we do these to try and help out and make sure that, again, you guys have those educational and networking opportunities. You can see the board that we currently have. Again, we have elected a new board. They will begin serving at the first of the year. And so you'll hear more about that at the January meeting. All right. If I didn't say it already, I'll remind you, make sure you stay in your seats because at the very end, if you're here, we're going to do a giveaway. All right. Again, reminder, if you're not a member, sign up, become a member. We want you to be a member. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, that's why. Like, these slides look awfully familiar. Okay, now, one of my favorite things about doing these meetings, especially the general meeting, is this section that we're going to do next called Deal or Dud of the Month. Because it's one thing for all of us to sit here and say, well, yeah, I did such and such, or I'm going to do such and such, but it's another when you get to actually see and hear from the people that have really done this and learn from their experience. And in many cases, especially since Stephen had the idea to start up the Dud of the Month this year, you are going to get to learn a lot from their experience. And that can be super, super helpful. So if you have a deal or a Dud, you know about somebody that does, it does need to be a completed transaction so that we can talk all about it. But if you have one, you want to make sure and email vicepresident@cfri.net. And I am going to call up to the stage Mr. Stephen Young, who is going to talk about the deal and the Dud. Come on, clap. Thank you. Keep talking, it's on. A bell will jump up and turn the mic on. There it is. All right, clicker for you, and take it away.
Excellent. Let's see. Out of practice here.
Yeah, I was too. Don't feel bad.
All right, cool. So again, if you have anything deals or duds, please send them to vicepresident@cfri.net. And again, Jay, how many times do you want to remind the people, Jay? Okay, guys, please stay till the end of the meeting. I promise there's no more slides like this, right? Okay. All right, so with that, I want to call Mike Bocanegra up to the stage. Give him a round of applause, guys. Come on, give him some confidence. Keep going until he gets up here. Keep going. Don't stop. Just right there. Hello, everybody. Make sure to stay to the end for the gift card. I didn't pay him to say that. All right, so deal of the month. Let's talk about this one. Port Orange value add. So how did you come across this deal? Let's start there.
Yep. Again, thanks to everybody. I do want to say at CFRI, I've been part of CFRI for a long time. So really all the volunteers and all the people that do this stuff, I appreciate it. This deal, actually how I got a hold of it was broker relationships. So I've been in commercial now for quite some time. So I have quite a bit of broker relationships. And one of the brokers that I talked to, the deal fell out of contract. So when the deal fell out of contract, it was a pretty fast closing time. So the broker contacted us saying, hey, can you get this done this quick?
Define quick. So it went out of contract. And
so typically in commercial, especially even during COVID times, maybe you're getting a due diligence period where you can get something under contract and then you have a due diligence of maybe 20 to 30 days. And then you close maybe another 10 or 15 days after. The day he called me, we went and visited it. We were under contract in actually 24 hours. We were under contract and our money went hard. We had a due diligence was basically 48 hours and then we closed within 30 days. And then we ended up closing in 28 days. So it was pretty fast.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Quite fast. So this type of deal, had you done any of this type of commercial real estate previously, or was this kind of new for you?
Yeah, no, I've done quite a few of the deals now. So something I talk a lot about is my team. So I'm part of Attune Investments. We're in the back in one of the tables we have. But yeah, we have a pretty good team in place now of people that I work with. Currently, we own, it's kind of weird when I look at the numbers, but we're just under 500 units now that we own.
Oh, wow.
With commercial, yeah. So we've done different sizes from large to small. This deal, honestly, though, I'm really happy with this one because of how fast we did it. And so once we kind of got the feel and, we've known what's going on, that's why we're able to close that quick. But again, it's always been just a big part of my team that's a big help.
Excellent. So can you describe the property a little bit? I don't know if I can see it, but how many units is this?
Yeah, so this is it's in Port Orange. It's probably about 1.5 miles from the coast. It is a 12-unit building. They're all 1-1s. It's 100% occupied when we bought it, and then the rents are about $400 under market. So the person that we bought it from, he's owned it for about 15 years. He never increased the rents or anything. And then once we got it, we knew we could start doing price increases. We're going to be doing quite a bit of rehab to the building.
Jay, you said it wasn't in your gift card.
But yeah, so a couple of the numbers on it here. The purchase price, we got it for $865,000. Our ARV, we put it about 1.46, and then the estimated where we're thinking is about $115,000 total for the whole rehab. So you can see on the left, that's what it looked like when we got it. Ladies in there doing some cooking right now. And then on the right-hand side, that's what a fully renovated unit would look like. We plan on putting probably around $8,000 to $10,000 per door into it.
Okay.
So we're updating kitchen, cabinets, countertops, flooring, paint, and then the exteriors. We're doing a lot of cleanup of some of the landscaping. A few of the roofs. We were actually changing one of the roofs out. So that kind of gives you the idea of what we were doing with it.
So the question I have, some of you might be new to real estate and thinking, did you have $865K just lying around? How were you able to make this work?
No, great question. Again, something I always come back to CFRI. I've been with them for a long time. I started in residential. So I started with just single family homes, buying one, fixing it, selling it, and then kind of moved up from there. So in this aspect, the money where it came from is we have good bank financing where we work with commercial lenders, and then we have private investors that I've actually met from CFRI. So they invest in our deals with us. So when we do the loans, typically the lender will give us around 75 to 80% of the purchase price. And then the difference, we come to the table with equity from partners we have. And then the lender typically gives us 100% of the construction budget. So in this instance, we came to the table with, this was a little better. We only needed 15% down. So we needed 15% of the $865,000. Then the repairs for $115,000, that was 100% from the bank as well.
All right.
Yep. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say so. So let's talk a little bit about the repairs. So what was the condition of a 1-1 unit? Can you describe kind of the condition of that?
Yep. So everything's pretty much outdated. So we have done some rehabs where looked like a bomb went off in the unit, and this wasn't really like that. They really did keep them in pretty good shape. They just were outdated.
Okay.
There was a couple of things the current owner or previous owner, I'm sorry, he just was deferred maintenance. So some of the tenants have just been there for quite some time and things weren't getting fixed really. So once we came in, we did do a lot of upgrades to the kitchens, bathrooms, flooring. It's a typical things you would do in a normal residential turn. It's just on a bigger scale because we're doing multiple units. So that's pretty similar to the rehab stuff that we learn all the time through CFRI.
Okay, great. And did you have any issues getting contractors to come do the work or finding reliable help? I know that adds to a lot of the duds that we see.
Yeah, that's a great point. Since COVID, it definitely has gotten trickier. Some of the contractors, either they were bidded out pretty far, or if it wasn't worthwhile to them, they throw kind of a crazy price at us. Fortunately, we have some good contractors that we have from Central Florida we've worked with before, and how it worked for us is we say, okay, come look at, we only had 1 unit vacant once we took over. excuse me. And we had him look at that one specific unit and say, hey, give us a good price on this one. And if that works, you're going to get the whole complex because we need to turn all of them. And then what we do, it's kind of off subject, but with the turning of the tenants, if a tenant does live in the unit, we actually will do a renewal of lease, and then we still can turn while they're in that unit. So what we usually do is we'll
I was going to ask that. I was going to say, how are you going to do this?
We try, and if one tenant wants to, they can move from one unit to another and get the updated unit. Or if they want to renew, which we try and renew everybody, what we usually do is we put them kind of on a little vacation where we'll put them in a hotel for a week. It's kind of all paid. We can move their stuff into one of our storage units that we have on site. Wow. And then we renovate the full unit, and then we move everything back in. So if a lot of the times if a tenant's lived there for a long time, they have all their mailing addresses and all that stuff set up. So they like to they want to give them that option. Yep.
Cool. Very good. So let's see how you, oh no, yep. Here,
so these are again, some of the summaries. So our exit, what we're thinking of doing is a sale. We potentially could still do the refi on it, but we were planning on maybe 18 to 24 months with a sale. The sale price, we're looking at an ARV of around 1.46. The cash flow, that's basically for the year. So we are getting passive cash flow from the building, even as we're renovating units. Then our purchase price was 865. There's our rehab costs, and then we estimate kind of closing costs and commissions with the broker, or if we did a refi, that would be our cost. So our profit is a little over 400,000, which is pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. So is there any reason you wouldn't do a sale versus the refi? Like what typically goes through your mind when you're at this point?
Well, most everything I own, I try and keep, and we keep everything for cash flow. So when I first started, I did buy stuff to buy, fix, and sell. Now I'm to the point where we have property managers that we hire to do our, overlooking our management, but I like the cash flow from the building. So I'm not always overly concerned with the ARV, believe it or not. I'm more concerned with the cash flow. That's how we make a living. And then we use the cash flow for other investments and things like that. So as inflation is going up, the apartments are a really good hedge against inflation. So that kind of leans us to maybe want to refi, but if we get the right price too, we potentially might sell. So that's kind of we got a couple different exit strategies.
Okay. Excellent. And okay, so with that, we're at the questions portion. So I wanted to give us enough time so you guys could ask questions. I'm sure you have many. How are we doing the questions? Oh, Jay's gonna run. Okay. Yeah, make them run.
Run. I saw a hand over here somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's some hands.
If you do refi, when you cash out your investors, how do you cut them in and how do you pay them back? And do they stay in any way?
Yep, that's a great question. So usually when we bring a deal to market to our investors, we'll present it two different ways. If I do a quicker turn where it's maybe like a bridge like this, we potentially may do like a debt partnership with them. So they would come in just to be able to invest at a fixed rate, and then we'll do the refi. We can give them their entire budget, their entire principal back plus their return. If we keep something a little longer, maybe 3 to 5 years, then we'll make an equity position for them. So they still could potentially get a percentage of their principal back or all of it, and then they stay in the deal. So most of the time when we find a deal, we kind of say, okay, we go to our investors and go, what are you looking for? Do you want something a little quicker, or how do the numbers work out? So we're really kind of flexible, and that's one reason, at least I've always liked commercial. We can kind of be creative in that way too.
Cool. So excellent.
How you doing, Mike? Thanks for sharing the deal.
Thank you.
Hey, when it fell out of contract at the purchase price with the broker before, did you get a discount at the 865?
Yep, that's a great question. Yeah, it actually was listed originally for 930. So they had it at 930. The numbers still did work at that number, but once they came to us, he pretty much was giving it to us almost at cost just to cover his commission. But the time was pretty fast too, so we didn't even really mess with the negotiation a whole lot because the numbers worked fairly well, and I try and be fair both ways. He came to us and didn't remarket it or nothing like that. So
In terms of the materials that you use, for example, in the kitchen, the counter, the cabinets, do you go like the basic, the lowest cost, or you try to look a little bit more like, like good looking or more fancy?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, when we do rentals, sometimes if you're doing a house and maybe you're going to do something in Winter Park, you'll do the highest end stuff you can do. When we do rentals, we try and gear it towards whatever the market is. So in this market, they classify them as A class as a high class, D would be like a war zone. This is more like a B kind of B area. So we did do nicer appliances and countertops and cabinets, but we didn't go to full granite or anything like that. And what I try and do is say, okay, for whatever we're going to get, what we put in repair wise, can I see that reflected in the sale price or in my rents? That's kind of how we did it. But we still try and keep it, a little bit above what the market is doing to be able to get tenants a little quicker.
Excellent. Okay.
I have a question. You said that you got 75% of the ARV, 85% of the purchase price, 100% of the rehab. Is that correct?
No, it's 70% ARV, 85% of purchase price, and then 100% of construction costs.
And how soon do you close? How soon was the loan?
How soon?
How many days did it take from giving the deal to the lender to the closing?
Oh, yep. They closed. They actually were ready in it was about 3 weeks they were ready. The holdup was the appraisal. We had to get an appraisal done, and that's what actually took the longest. But overall, from start to finish, it was 28 days until we closed.
28 days. Yeah. And how much you paid for the appraisal?
The appraisal?
Right.
Yeah, the appraisal cost, we did pay an expedited appraisal price. Commercials are a little bit more expensive. It was around $4,500 for the appraisal.
And that's two reports, right? The value and the rental value?
Yep.
The fair market.
It's one summary report with both numbers in there. There's the as-is number and the ARV number. Okay. So typical residential is maybe $850, and the commercial is a little bit more expensive, obviously. So,
and if you don't mind asking, those are commercial, 5+ multifamily. Who's the lender, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
No, that's fine. I have a broker that I work with. It's through Cap Connect now. We're part of Attune Investments, so we're on the back table, so you guys can come in and ask. But yeah, we have our broker contacts we have, and then our broker, he actually worked with a bridge lender that I've worked with before that did it. Gotcha. And a bridge is kind of like a hard money loan that you would use for residential. It's the same thing in commercial.
Questions, guys.
Yeah, great questions, guys.
We got some online, Peter?
Yes, one of our members, Stefano Bello, is asking, were tenants easy to convince to pay the extra $400 a month for the renovated units, or you had any pushback from them?
Actually, that's a great question. The tenants that we have out of the 12 units, 4 of them have already renewed. We give them a discounted rate. So the market rent we have is $1,050. If you renewed with us, we would give it to you at $950, and they were actually paying $625. So they did get a little bit of a discount, but it was worth it for us to give them a $100 discount without having to remarket the unit. Out of all of the units, I believe there's 4 of them that haven't answered yet. We do the renewals kind of spaced out every month. We only had one tenant that kind of gave a little pushback and moved out. Most of them, because they haven't looked in the market in 4 to 5 years, they didn't realize how high rents were. So once they went and they see that the market is actually, it could be up to $1,100 to $1,200 for them. So when they saw it, they're like, okay, this is a pretty good deal. But that's a great question.
Awesome. I think we had one more, and then I think we'll be done.
Question, did you purchase that under an LLC? I have a couple here. And if you did you spell out all of the splits and stuff with your partners under an operating agreement? And the last one is, what happens if there's a dispute?
Okay. What was the second part? I couldn't hear the second part.
The second one is the splits with your other partners. Do you spell all of those terms out on the operating agreement? And the last one is, what happens if there's a dispute?
Okay, a dispute is what you said. Yeah. Okay, great question. Yeah, so in each one of our buildings, whenever we buy a new property, we do an individual operating agreement for just that building. So to answer a question, yes, we spell everything out beforehand. It's something I always kind of say whether a private investor wants to tell you or not. not, they want to know what happens to me, or if I die, what happens. So they want to know it in the back of their mind, and we spell everything out beforehand. So we say, these are the rules, kind of what we're going to go about doing. And we have a couple different extra strategies, whether it's a refi or sale. And then if there is a dispute, when we have kind of things spelled out of what the rules would be, and the investor signs that prior to that. In this instance, I've had an investor that I met at CFRI years ago, and it's a great relationship. So usually once you work with somebody once, it kind of flows better. But yeah, I have had disputes before with people, and usually the operating agreement is what we go back to. So a great question.
I think that may be it.
Good. All right, well, with that, Mike, thank you for sharing your deal with us. Give it up, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Cool, awesome, man. All right, so that was the deal of the month. Now, we're gonna call Connie up to the stage to talk about the dud of the month. Come on, guys, give it up, give it up. All right, so.
Well,
first of all-
I also want
go
to say
ahead,
thank
go
you
ahead.
to everybody who helps run this organization, because I'm a lifetime member, and I used to be in charge of signing everybody up as the vice president of membership, and I remember all the work that was entailed. So I really appreciate all the work that they do, and Buffy is always on top of stuff. I can't believe how much stuff, just send her a little thing and she's right back. So
Oh, yeah.
it's well run. Thank you for all that you do too.
Oh, we appreciate it. Well, we appreciate you coming up here and sharing the dud of the month. This isn't an easy thing to do, guys, right? We're bringing up some old stuff that's supposed to be in the closet and never talked about again. But Connie's up here to talk about the Bay Hill amateur fail. So
Yes.
very similar to the deal. How did you come across this particular opportunity?
Okay, so this is a little bit different than what your typical deal done of the month is, because
Okay.
my husband and I are private lenders. So this was a loan that a mortgage broker brought to us, and he wanted us to fund it. I think the house had a 300,000, I wrote notes on here. I think the first mortgage was like 3 or 315.
Okay.
And they had an appraisal, and the mortgage broker was a little questionable on what he tried to push over on me all the time. So I knew I had to be careful. And this was a $110,000 loan request.
Okay.
And so that would have been going over for 415, and the house was supposedly worth 500. So I knew up front that I was going to have to really be careful and do my numbers, that kind of thing. The thing that really threw me off was this house had a beautiful permitted addition. Anybody not know where Bay Hill is out in Dr. Phillips? It's a golf club community, country club and all that kind of stuff.
Sounds expensive.
You can see here,
Okay.
the 3 arches, that was like a patio that was added on to the front. And then where that first, I'm losing words here, I'm over 50. That first,
Over to the right.
what's it called when it comes out?
Come on, you guys
Oh,
in
to the
real
right.
estate, help her out.
The pointy comes, what's it called, guys? What's it called? The part that comes out? Gable, thank you.
There you
So the first gable to the right was the original garage. So they converted the garage into an office, and the office had a half bathroom. And then they added, there's that little door that goes into the office area. And then they extended the house and put on a 2-car garage. In the back of the house that you really can't see from this picture was a master suite that was added as a second floor. And the house had I'm thinking cage, and screened in pool.
Okay.
And so the master, it was done pretty well. It had high ceilings. It had the big master. I think it was, I can't remember what year it was done, in the late 80s. So it had high ceilings, big master tub, big master sinks, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Your house was originally a 4.2, so it made this a 5.3. And it made it 5.5 baths. Now, I learned from Tom during this deal, everybody goes, well, 5.5 baths. And he said, that means it has 6 toilets. You have to clean 6 toilets. I remember cleaning 6 toilets. So anyway, we went to evaluate it, and this is a key concept that I think applies to everyone in this room and anyone who wants to do anything in real estate, which is, and my daughter learned this in college when she was studying real estate at FSU. The most important thing when you're evaluating any kind of deal is estimating its value and estimating it accurately.
Sure.
Very, very important. And if you mess up there, we all know how that works out, right? You're on the number line, you can't come back.
So did you physically show up to the property prior to
Yes.
putting any money into this?
Now, Tom didn't. I showed up, and you can see here, the original house was built in 1972. So this was a pretty fancy home, high ceilings in the family room, brick fireplace. They had renovated and updated the kitchen with maple cabinets. It wasn't anything fancy, and it was, you can see it's a little U-shaped kitchen, nothing super fancy. It had 8-foot ceilings in there, so nothing super special.
Sure.
But, adding a second floor, I don't know if I've ever seen a house where you can add on square footage and make it the architecturally original, nice home. The stairs going up to the second floor were a little awkward, but they were to code. And so anyway, my big mistake, it made the house into a 5,400 square foot house. Now, anybody who's been around for a while knows that there weren't a lot of houses built in 1972 with 5,400 square feet. But I was able, and I was young. This was 23 years ago.
Okay.
And so I hadn't been doing this a lot. So you can make a lot of mistakes when you are young and inexperienced. We didn't do this on purpose, did we, dear?
Oh, no. I'm glad he does have a mic.
So, and this is a mistake that I see people that bring me deals for loans, which is if you have a home that has added square footage or say an enclosed garage, enclosed carport, you should not be using that in your square footage assessment as though it is original, architecturally original square footage. So if you have a 950 square foot carport or garage is enclosed, you should not be analyzing that as a 1,400 square foot house. And appraisers will tell you this. They'll say, go out and find another 950 square foot house, see what it sold for, and then ask yourself, what would a buyer in that market pay for that additional square footage? Some little, cookie cutter neighborhoods, that's a big deal. It's very valuable. But some, you don't want to take away a carport or garage because they want their car in that carport or garage or they want the storage.
I see.
So,
is that where, didn't mean to cut you off, is that where you went wrong here?
Huge.
Because-
Do we have any appraisers in the audience? No. Okay, so I did all the wrong things that appraisers tell you not to do. I hit a home run. I think
So you compared apples to oranges.
Oh, yes.
Essentially.
I wrote notes about how many things I messed up on in appraising. Okay, so appraisers will tell you, do not use additional square footage and evaluate it as an original square foot property, whatever was originally built. I used comps outside the neighborhood because at the time I thought, well, there are no other 5,000 square foot houses in Bay Hill because this was 1998.
Sure.
And so I was going to places like Phillips Landing and these gated communities that had other 4,000, 5,000 square foot houses. And then those houses, here's the other, the trifecta. I used comps in newer neighborhoods. And back in the 90s, we had very high ceilings, grand entries. On the prior slide, it didn't have a grand entry. It had a regular 8-foot door, not an 8-foot door, but a regular 8-foot ceiling entry and that kind of thing. So the houses that were built in the 90s had grand entries, big Palm Beach windows, high ceilings throughout, not just one room with a high ceiling. So the whole architectural style was so much different. So one of the main things that like certain, and I'm going to go over this in the lessons learned, but one of the things was when you have a buyer, if you're picturing a buyer and you think he's going to spend $500,000 or she's going to spend $400,000 on a house, what else can they buy for that money?
That's a good question. Yeah.
And that's why sometimes when you get, and this is another danger, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself on the lessons learned, but one of the dangers of buying or evaluating the largest house in the neighborhood is a lot of times people will use price per square foot. You can't use that. And appraisers will tell you that. Do not use price per square foot in your analysis. And so when you get to the higher priced homes in a given neighborhood, you might be going into a price range where somebody can go to a better neighborhood, something with more amenities. Maybe it's waterfront, maybe it has a community pool and things like that. So you have to watch those ceilings, is what I call them, for certain areas and neighborhoods, and then go out there and look at your actives and see if I think this house is worth $325. What could a buyer purchase today? What is active in the market for $325? So anyway, this is the inside of the house.
No, this is great. So this is some great,
These are deep, guys.
yeah, things to be
These are
thinking
really deep,
about.
and these are things that you should never violate.
And
I
so
hit a home run on this one. I made all the mistakes.
you made all the mistakes, you violated all the rules, broke the rules, and so.
But I didn't know these rules at the time. I told you I was young, and
Should have been in a room like this, right?
we belonged to CFRI, but we were, and it was the largest loan we had ever done. So be careful of going into new markets too, right? Has anybody else been burned by going into a new market? I thought that I was going in that direction, but.
Well, let's see what damage it did. So we've talked about.
So Tom
all
says
the
this is
issues.
the only deal where you could lend 110,000 and lose 128.
Wow.
So thankfully, here's another good lesson. Don't spend more than you make. When you don't spend as much as you make, you have reserves. And sometimes you're going to need those reserves. So the first mortgage on this house was $5,000 a month. We carried that now, let me go back. Right now, we would never do this loan because the rules and the laws have changed. This was a homeowner living in the house. We can no longer do that because laws have changed. So we wouldn't do this loan and make this mistake again today, just because of the laws. So the first mortgage payment was $5,000 a month. We had to make some back payments that he had missed for $40,000. And
so he is the guy that sold you?
No, he was living in the house. He was getting a second mortgage on the house. Okay. And like I said, this is kind of old.
Sure.
This wouldn't happen today. So anyway, the only difference in the picture, this is the only picture of money burning that I could find. Our pile would be much bigger. And so I know those are Benjamins.
Yeah, essentially that's what you were burning through. It's at $128,000 loss.
Yeah. It was a big loss.
That entails you making the payments for the first mortgage and also the amount that you loaned that you never got money back.
And we had to pay taxes. We had some renovations that because they eventually moved out. We made some renovations. We hired a nice, good guy. We got a reference to a good repair guy through CFRI. And got it back on the market. We did all kinds of marketing things, and we thought we were going to sell for close to 500. And eventually, we kept lowering it. We were offering free sea-doos to go with the house because it had lake access to the chain of lakes, that kind of stuff. And we finally sold it to. Say it again.
Free what? Sea-doo. So
a sea-doo to go with the house.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And,
so you're spending more money. So you're rehabbing to try to get the value up, and now you're throwing in Sea-Doos, jet skis, and oh boy.
And you know, when you're spending $5,000 a month,
Yeah, that
every
too.
day matters.
Oh my gosh.
Every day you carry it matters. So anyway, we sold it eventually for $375, and we sold it to a guy who was being represented by one of the big law firms in Orlando. And that's one of my other pro tips, as my son calls them.
Okay.
Never accept contracts from somebody who's being represented by one of the big law firms, because they know more than you do, trust me. And they pulled every trick in the book to delay closing. And it was a very unpleasant experience. I would never accept another contract from a bank of attorneys.
Wow, so you're getting hit from all sides, essentially.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So
It was
before
fun.
it started, during, and then
It was
towards
fun.
the end, they were dragging it out. So, all right, well, wow. I don't want to see more
So
money.
these
So
are
let's go to
my
the
main
lessons.
lessons here. Make sure you're doing your own evaluations. A lot of my clients bring me deals where they're going to buy a house, and I'll look at them and go, my numbers aren't lining up to what you're telling me. What number sales are you using for your comparables? And they'll say, well, I'll send you what my realtor sent me. No, that is not a good plan. Each of us need to know how to determine value. That is the most important lesson we can have at CFRI. And if you do not know how to establish value and figure out value, learn. There are a lot of bigger pockets. This, we do the bus tour. We do, seminars and classes on this. Take classes.
Right, get educated.
Yeah, YouTube and all those other things on the internet. Nobody has an excuse these days. And then make sure your sales data are comparables. I've already kind of covered that with do not compare apples and dragon fruit. And then use the original square footage. I've gone over that. Do not, and if you think or suspect that the house has had an addition on the property and you're not sure, a lot of times you can go back to the property appraiser's website and look at the sketch of the house. And it'll show things like FEP, finished enclosed porch, or UEP, unfinished enclosed porch. And that can be square footage that may not be permitted, and somebody has just put, six-pack special over the weekend. So make sure you're looking at the original square footage and comparing it to other properties that are the same size. You may not think it's important, but buyers think it's important.
So
what I would have done differently,
sure.
I should have gone back to the original square footage of this house, which is 2,400 square feet, and it was a 4.2. And what I should have done was look through the sales in Bay Hill, and preferably closer to my house. And ours was on Bay Hill Boulevard, or whatever the main drag is.
Okay.
I always recommend that you look for sales on that main road as well, because a house on a cul-de-sac is going to have less traffic than the ones on the main road. Use the original square footage and the original features, and then ask yourself, what would a buyer in this particular market pay for an upgraded master suite?
Right.
The house sold for $375. It probably would have sold for around, I'm trying to remember because it was 1998, probably around $300. So would a buyer pay $200,000 for a big master suite and office and a two-car garage? No. So when you put it in terms like math like that, it helps you break it down and go, oh yeah, that's a little bit of a stretch.
Right.
And then, call people and ask them what you think that added either square footage or added features, things like that. Sometimes people go crazy with pools, and you need to get a better or an accurate description of what the pool is and what it is worth.
So how have these lessons impacted you, obviously today, but moving forward from this point? So clearly you had to learn the hard way, right? You had to, I think I hear the phrase like, either you pay to get education or you go out.
Take a seminar.
Right, yeah, go to a seminar and get paid or go out in the real world without education and you end up paying for it either way, so.
So good question. The happy ending to this story is we did this once.
Okay.
One and done.
Good.
We've never lost any money on any deals after that deal. And he's going to show you a lesson, a screen. The next shot is the
go ahead.
branding.
Yeah.
You know how they brand cows? I don't think cows ever get rid of the brand, correct?
I don't think so.
I'm not a cowboy.
Scarred forever.
But you're scarred forever, right? Well, right back here, there's a bead on my backside, and it reminds me every time I go to do a deal, not to over-evaluate it if it's been added on to, compare it to other properties that are similar in style, similar in square footage, similar in architectural style, similar in features, similar neighborhood, similar amenities. Don't, like I see people send me deals every once in a while. They want me to lend money and they'll say, oh, here's my 3.2 and oh, here's a 4.2 with a pool that sold for this much. That's not a comparable. It's 4 bedrooms and it has a pool. It's not a comparable.
So my last question, and we'll open it up to the audience. Why didn't you get out of real estate after experiencing something as traumatic as this, just starting out? Why didn't you get out? Why are you still lending money and being a private lender?
Well, we had rentals at the time. Okay. And we had other loans that, it's kind of like a data point. If you already have data points that show you that you can be successful, and like I know exactly what mistakes we made.
Got it.
And when Tom saw the house the first time, he was like, well, heck, I knew that just driving up this house wasn't worth $500,000. But I was looking. Yeah. And we're still married.
Yeah. How have you kept the marriage going? That's awesome.
And no one is perfect.
Sure.
And we did this once, and I said, $128,000, that should last us for a while. I think we're good. But let's see. I feel like we studied this in my Sunday school class, and sometimes when you live through bad experiences, you can be the lighthouse that warns other people about them later. And you can use your bad experiences to teach others. And so now I feel like this was such a big experience to me. And we can remember what the house looks like. We probably dream about it occasionally. But it was such a strong experience. I've never done it again. And so I warned people about this. And some of you have probably heard my Bay Hill story over the years when you call me and you get to get the Connie, advice about not evaluating houses with more square footage because they've been added onto and that kind of thing. Right. So I feel like I'm kind of like a lighthouse. Okay. And I warn others before they get to the rocks. Yeah. And, lighthouses, you never know how many boats you save because they don't crash. But hopefully my bad lesson, and we survived. Yeah. You don't spend more than you earn. You save money, you learn your lessons, and then you move on. Right. And we're doing okay, right, honey?
It's good. He's not going
The long and the short of it is there's so much money in real estate. Yeah, $120,000 is a good sum of money, but we've been doing it forever. So when you're doing it forever, believe it or not, that turns into chump change. Life is a journey, right? And you're gonna have bumps along the way. Just because you got a bump, even if it's a big bump, doesn't mean you abandon something as great as real estate.
Excellent. All right, yeah, give it up, guys. Man.
And I think Somebody said not too long ago that real estate, I think I heard it on Bigger Pockets. Okay. Real estate can have a very forgiving arm of it. If you pay it $5,000 too much for a rental property in 20 years, are you going to remember that you paid $5,000 too much? No, because you have lots of cash flow and that kind of thing. One other thing that's kind of a little aside, but Tom and I did not live in an expensive, we live in a modest home. We did not live in a gated community. We don't live in a golf club community. We don't play tennis, you know, and that kind of stuff. So we were lending in a socioeconomic group and neighborhood that was much different than what our life experience was. Just be careful when you do those kinds of things. Sure. Because you can make wrong assumptions about what type of appliances to put in, what type of features and things like that.
That's all right. No problem. Thank you. So we have quick questions before you leave.
Oh, yes.
We got time to get a few in.
Okay, so Donna from on our Zoom webcast is asking, what if you are flipping and want to add on a bedroom or bathroom? Would you still consider comps on what you are planning to do to the home?
What's the last part of the question?
Would you still consider comps on what you're planning to do to the home?
So I think the question was, if you're going to do a flip and you're trying to figure out what that value is going to be once you're done, would you look at what the end result is going to be if you're going to be adding on square footage like that, or how would you comp it?
That's one of the "it depends" questions. It depends if you happen to have a garage or some other kind of structure that's already in place that puts most of the cost already in the house as far as enclosing it for a fourth bedroom or third bedroom if you've got a small house. It depends on your market. If your neighborhood is stronger in the 4 bedrooms than it is 3 bedrooms, but you've got to also remember what you're taking away. If you're enclosing a carport, enclosing a garage, you're taking the value of that storage and protection for cars. So every neighborhood's different. If you have a 1-bathroom house and you have some extra room, it's close, and you can do the pipes fairly easily, we try to add a 2nd bathroom. But that is hard. And it's really hard to add a bedroom if you're not doing an enclosed carport or garage.
All right, well, I'd love to say we have time for more questions, but we do need to get our break in. We are going to take a 14-minute break, and we will start back at 7 o'clock with our 4 panelists up here. Please take a few minutes, stretch your legs, attend the vendor tables that are out there. Thank you, Connie. Give her a round of applause. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock. We're getting all of this for posterity, so we're all good. You got a thumbs up? Thank you very much. All right, excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. This is our second portion of our event tonight. And for this section, we're double checking that. Thank you. Nope, good. All right, so again, a couple of quick reminders. The meeting after the meeting tonight is going to be at Ale House, Winter Park Village. And the master of ceremonies for that event will be Mr. Todd Hutcheson, who is our panelist on the right-hand side over there. It's not in Winter Park Village? Okay. It's at the corner of 1792 and Lee Road. Okay, good. We need to change that. All right. Well, is the address right? Is it 1251 Lee Road? Okay, all right. You'll be in good shape. Todd's fine the first round. Oh, Todd's fine the first? Yeah. Okay, that was Greg that said that, not me. All right, so we did want to remind everybody about that, but also make sure that you stay till the end because you'll get to ask some questions of the panelists, and also, as promised, we have a giveaway at the end as well. Just another way to say thank you back to everybody else for being a part of CFRI and sticking with us through all of this craziness that is the pandemic. All right, so we're going to get started with our panelists here. Some of you may recall, or maybe you didn't see, that our topic for tonight was we we wanted to ask some true experts in the field, how in the world would you realistically become successful in real estate if you didn't have everything you have right now? So if you were all of a sudden going to be dropped into a new area that you were not familiar with, and all you had was your knowledge, what in the world would you do to turn around and be successful in real estate very, very quickly? And we will get to that series of questions, but first I want to start by introducing our panel to you. And we've got a couple of introductory questions that we'll start with, but right now, you guys each have your own microphones. They should be live, so you don't need to turn them on and off or anything like that. But what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you, every person to say your name and basically your title or where it is that you work. We'll come back and talk more about what you do in just a second, but just a quick introduction of everybody. Greg.
My name is Greg Bond. I'm a property manager. We have an investment company. We're also doing assisted living and self-storage. So those are kind of my areas of expertise.
Excellent. Lindsey?
My name is Zalnoski. I predominantly flip properties over on the Space Coast in Brevard County. I am also a licensed real estate agent with Waterman Real Estate in Brevard.
Thank you very much. Jeremiah.
My name is Jeremiah Ofori. I'm the owner and operator of Pro Restore Services, general contractor / mold remediation.
Excellent, thank you. And Todd.
Hello, my name is Todd Hutcheson. I am currently a roofer and do wholesaling for 20 years.
Excellent, thank you so much. All right, we're going to go back through and find out a little bit more about each of our participants tonight, such as what exactly is your area of specialty and how did you get to that area of specialty? Greg, we'll start with you.
Well, I started in single family homes back 30 years ago. And from there, it kind of progressed. As I was in 2016, I looked at it and said, I feel I'm too highly leveraged in single family homes. I didn't want to be in just one asset class. So we decided to branch out, and I started looking and analyzing different things. I loved multifamily. I loved trailer parks, but I just couldn't find any good deals in those particular asset classes. So as I got looking, I found self-storage, and that was something that really resonated with me. Especially I was in my criteria, I was looking for something that did well in a downturn. So back in 2016, I expected that we were going to have a crash soon, and it hasn't happened yet, but it transitioned me into self-storage. The other thing was assisted living. And there was a gentleman that came here, his name was Gene Dorino. Gene spoke on residential assisted living. That's kind of what got me into it. But I transitioned basically into larger assisted living. So 60 beds and up is basically the space we're in right now.
Okay, and so your area of specialty right now is primarily self-storage and assisted living then?
And property management. Okay. And then we're still running an investment company where we buy and do a lot of wholesaling and flipping. We try and hold as many as we can, however.
Okay, excellent. Lindsey, how about you?
Okay, I started in real estate in 2015 as a licensed realtor doing retail. I didn't mind doing it, but it wasn't quite my niche. I went to my very first CFRI meeting back in 2016 and met up with a group of wholesalers. I pretty much begged them to hire me because I had an open position and they were speaking that night. So 2 weeks later, I was hired. I wholesaled for about 2.5 years. 2017, my goal was to get my very first flip. December 17th of 2017, I closed on that. Just made it by the
nice.
Timeline, right? Mm-hmm. And then I just dove headfirst into flipping. So since 2018, I've flipped, closed 18. I've got 6 that I'm going right now and 1 under contract to buy. So my area of specialty is flipping houses.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Lindsey. Jeremiah, how about you?
For a long path. So I graduated in civil engineering. I always liked building things, remodeling stuff, reconstructing. And I used to work for different contractors on a larger scale. And I wanted to get into real estate. So I got into obviously fixing and flipping, going that route. And I've transitioned to just buying properties, buying vacant land, and just building from the ground up. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. But my day-to-day is, since I like fixing and flipping. I went from working for someone to start my own, getting my general contractor's license and creating a whole business of just fixing and flipping for other people and making money that way.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Todd, how about you?
I was a full-time political consultant, and one day I was looking to buy something because you're only busy in political consulting 6 months out of every 2 years. So I had an option to buy a sign shop, and a guy came into the sign shop one day, a CFRI member named Jarrell Williams. He lives in Jacksonville right now, one of the smartest guys you've ever met. And he said, "You need to come to our real estate meeting." And I said, "Okay, I'll be there." And he said, "We're all the guys that put out the We Buy Houses signs." So I came to CFRI meeting. It was January of 2001. And I fell in love instantly. I remember hearing the deal of the month and my head would just be spinning, thinking, these people are making all this money. I know I'm as smart as them. So if they can do it, I can do it. Long story short, I didn't buy the sign company. I ended up buying ibuyhomes.com and started that website and flipped my first wholesale deal about 3 weeks later after going to CFRI, and just been hooked on wholesaling ever since.
Excellent. All right, fantastic. So as all of our panelists know, one of the things that we want to find out from each of them is what would they do? How would they get started? What would they think, hey, this is what I need to do right away if they were all of a sudden just lifted up out of where they are and dropped in a new area? Now, some of you may have seen some of these things in distant past. We used to see infomercials and whatnot where some of the gurus would say, oh, don't worry, I can be dropped in such and such and make tons of money in X amount of time. But we really wanted to ask that question. If you were going to be taken to a new location, so you're now in a new location, you're unfamiliar with the area, you don't have resources, the only thing you really have is your knowledge, which all four of these panelists have an amazing amount of knowledge. What is it that you would do to get started in that new location and become successful as quickly as possible? Greg is reaching for his microphone, so he's already ready to go. Go for it, Greg.
I would look for like-minded individuals. I'd come to a meetup or find a local REI, and I would begin networking and talking with as many individuals as I could. I'd want to learn about the area, and no better place to learn it than the people that are already there and already understand the different markets and what's going on. So I'd probably start with single-family homes if I had a limited amount of resources. So I'd jump back into single-family homes, try and hold probably a few for trying to get some appreciation. I always say that the single-family market, it's the best get-rich-slow scheme that I know. So it does take time. There's some people that do make it very quickly, but I think they're the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, that's a great answer to that. Lindsey, how about you?
Yeah, same thing here as far as what Greg was saying. I would totally immerse myself in as many meetups, local REIAs as I possibly can, network, build as many relationships as possible, get out there and talk to everybody. As far as, me doing flips, I'm going to Home Depot and I'm talking, building the relationships with the people at the pro desk, Lowe's, people at the pro desk, asking them who are their main people that they come in, get there early, what contractors are coming in and out of Home Depot, Lowe's early, try and talk to some of those people, ask the people around, the locals, anybody that you can, that you start building those relationships, who are your other suppliers, and ask for the referrals, get on Facebook, social media, ask for the people in the local area, the groups in that market, and ask for the referrals and see what people are saying, pay attention. The biggest thing is just start building those relationships immediately.
Yeah, and I kind of half expected you to mention social media. So I was going to ask that if you didn't. But yeah, that's another great way. It's an excellent channel. And I know you do a good bit of social media as well. For anybody that doesn't know that, you should definitely be following Lindsey. But yeah, I think that is another great channel that we all have available to us thanks to the technology. Some things that you go back, like Todd said, he started in 2001. There wasn't a whole lot of social media, Instagram, Facebook stuff that you could have done at that point.
All free. Use it.
Exactly. We used phone books and papers back then.
That's right. All right, Jeremiah, they've shared some great examples. Would you do anything differently? What would you do?
I'm totally extrovert, I probably would not join a meeting. I came to CFRI 3 times before I started talking to people. So I would probably get dropped into a city, and first thing is, how do I live for free? So I would probably do something like rent an apartment in a nice area and go camping on the weekend and Airbnb it or do something where I can get money. That's probably what I would do. Then I would walk around and try to introduce myself to every utility person, postal worker, people who pull in the meters for FP&L or the power company. What house looks abandoned? Let me know, and let me try to find out who owns it and what I can do. Whether work to fix it up or do something to earn cash so I can start flipping or find a deal that I can wholesale. That'll just be me.
Very interesting. Hopefully everybody picked up on that. So what I heard from that was one of the things I want to do is I want to learn a little bit more about this area. I want to become familiar with it and see who else is already out in the area. Lindsey was going to do that via social media. That's just another way to do it. Start talking to some of the people that are very familiar with the area. You know, again, you suggested postal workers, people that work for the power company, people that are out there moving around and seeing it all the time. Great. Yep. Todd, what would you do?
I've got a huge list. I don't know if you want me to.
That's quite all right. Go for it. Let's talk about the list.
So I think the number one thing to do when you move to a new city is find a really good title company. How do I find a really good title company? I asked, at least in Florida, you know, being a title theory state, it's a little bit different if you went to a different state. But I would ask if they would do an A to B to B to C transaction where the C can bring the money for the A to B transaction. And if they look at me like I'm crazy or they say that's illegal or we don't do that here, then mark them off your list. I would secondarily ask them how they deal with an assignment of contract. What paperwork do they require the buyer or seller to deal with, and see if they answer that question to my liking. And thirdly, especially when you're doing wholesaling, side of the HUD to the right buyer. So the seller's side to the seller and the buyer's side to the buyer, so they don't see both sides of the HUD, so that they don't get offended if you've got a big giant assignment fee. So that's number one. Number two, I would go spend the first month I was there every single weekend going to open houses. I want to learn about the houses. If it was in Florida, it might be a little bit different, but if I was moving to North Carolina or Michigan, I don't know anything about heaters. I don't know anything about basements. I don't know anything about a lot of stuff that I would want to learn about by going to those open houses and get a feel for the houses that I may not have. The third thing on my list is I would take the real estate licensing class. Even if I didn't plan on becoming a realtor, I would want to learn the laws and make sure I'm not screwing anything up completely different than Florida. So that would be it. And then the fourth thing on my list, well, I'm gonna skip that one. I would take a trip to the courthouse and I would learn, if it's a property appraiser, I would want to learn how and who assesses the houses and how you have access to the information. For instance, Orange County, the property appraiser gives at least they did before COVID, a monthly class on how you use their website. So in many cases, it's called the assessor. In many states, that's who is possession of the information. So I would want to go to the courthouse and see who has all the information we need to find motivated seller leads and how the information is there. As far as wholesaling, if I dropped in, I would call all the bandit signs you see and try to make relationships with the other wholesalers. And I would ask them, who's the best realtor? Who's the best title company? Which REIA should I join? If it's a big city where they have multiple REIAs, you know, like Atlanta or something. And then finally, I would do something a little bit different. I would ask a realtor to pull a report for me of the realtors that year or the previous year who sold the most cash deals. Ooh. So I would want to give them a list of the top 10 realtors who sold by the number of properties, not the total number of money, but the total number of sales. And I would want to try to meet all those realtors.
Todd, can I add to that? But I would also want to find out who those buyers were. And I would try and set up breakfast or lunch with those buyers, because if you know a buyer that's buying 10 properties a month, he knows a little something. And if somebody came to me and said, hey, can I pick your brain and take you out to lunch? Sure. As long as I'm not busy, I'd be glad to do that. So I think that'd be.
I always say I gotta eat.
Absolutely, absolutely excellent information. Now, just in case you didn't realize it, we've been here 15 minutes and you guys have already gotten an amazing education just in that little bit. I wish I would have known half of that stuff before I joined CFRI, or right when I joined CFRI. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, Greg, I know you have kind of a list. I don't want to go through maybe the whole thing just yet, but we were kind of talking about some of the things that you would do. What have you already learned from your experience that you would try to make sure you don't do?
Well, that was one, they gave us the questions ahead of time to kind of prepare a little bit. And I sat down and I said, okay, what have been my biggest real estate mistakes? So I think I spent about 30 minutes and I came up with 21. So I probably could have came up with 50, right? If you're in it long enough, like Connie's still here, Connie and Tom, but you make mistakes, and as long as you're learning from those mistakes, it's a good thing. But, I just start saying one of the things is not leveraging inside my Roth IRA. I love buying properties into my Roth IRA, but I didn't leverage to begin with. I would have leveraged inside my Roth IRA. I would have set up a 401k a lot earlier than I did. I would learn to do a title search. When I bought my first property, I didn't know what a title search was. I didn't know I had to do a title search. I bought it off the courthouse steps, and guess what? I bought into a second position. I didn't know what I was buying, so I didn't do a title search.
Now, can I interject there real quick? Just because you make me think of one thing, and it goes back to a point that a couple of the others were making as well. You were talking about the Roth IRA, the 401k. Now, for anybody that might be in our audience that doesn't have one of those, or maybe unfamiliar with them, or the rules of those types of things, one of the things that you would have to do is get somebody that could help you with that. So like a couple of you are saying, and Todd, you were talking about trying to find out who the experts are in the area. That's going to be one of the people that you would need, because not only would you need to know what you can and can't do, but you're going to want to know what you can and can't do in that area. And obviously not every area is the same. I love the point you made about the fact that basements, we don't even think about that unless we've been outside of Florida. So yeah, go ahead.
That brings up another point. CFRI provides such a broad spectrum of education, and some of these guys that come into town, right, and you pay them $25,000 to join their program, a lot of times you're not getting even as much education as you're getting at CFRI. So, that is a very expensive way to get that education, where I think in a lot of local areas, you can get that education much, much cheaper, and a lot of people with hands-on experience that are really going to help you. So I don't know how much time I want to take.
Well, let's do one or two more, but I do want to hear some other answers.
So I would not buy property without looking at it and doing enough due diligence. So I bought a few properties that I said, okay, I can see a Google Earth, and I can take some shots from the street view, and I can see this stuff. And I didn't realize, there's no floor in that house. So the floor has been rotted out, right? It looked like a block house, but there was a subfloor there, and my gosh, I couldn't tell that the tree had come through the roof and had been that way for a couple of years, and it rotted the floor away. And those are the things you just can't see unless you're on site. So again, stuff that you learn. I lost $25,000 buying a commercial building that I didn't know about doing an environmental study. And I wasn't watching when my due diligence period was up. So my money, when my deposit went hard, and I found out, wait a minute, what's this environmental stuff? So by that time, the money's gone hard, and you just kind of wave bye to it. I would have probably never done property management. I thought I was saving money by managing my own properties. And what I did is I just took up a lot of my time and a lot of my effort. And I had a big heart back then. I guess maybe I still have kind of a big heart. But I would hear people's sob stories and I'd say, oh, yes, you can't pay your rent this month, no problem. Right? Or, you know, you pay me next month. Well, next month comes and goes and they don't pay that month. Right? And then you realize, oh, they were just playing me. And you get to the point. So I made a lot of very costly mistakes, but it made me a better property manager from what I'm doing now, right? So you pay for it, you get your education, and you're going to pay for it one way or another. But I love to hear like a story like Connie's where somebody made a terrible mistake, lost money, but they stay with it and they persevered because really it is one of the best ways to create passive income and create wealth generation for yourself. So,
all right, let's move on down the line. Lindsey, let's hear from you. What kinds of things have you already learned that you would not want to do?
I guess one of the biggest things is don't fall in love with the deal. You have to be 100% on your numbers. You have to understand your numbers. If I'm put into a new market, I'm probably going to want to get a second opinion just to confirm that what I think the ARV is or what I think my numbers are, I'm going to be confident in that. You know, I'll add to what Greg said too, is like, you know, do your due diligence, especially if you're in a new market. You know, I'm in my market. I know my market. I can maybe slide away with a couple other things that maybe doing a new market wouldn't slide. So 100% just do your due diligence and make sure that you make that happen. I guess one of the other biggest things too is if you are starting to get more involved with some of the people and the networking and you happen to come across doing a partnership, make sure you vet these people, have a joint venture agreement. You have to make clear expectations with your partner on what that looks like. Spell it out in the contract, whatever it is, but vet them and make sure that your expectations are 100% clear on that. Those are probably my top two. Just don't fall in love with the deal.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
The partnership that really brought something to my forefront of my mind, and that's with partnerships. You really want to analyze those partnerships, right? You don't want to get in bed with the wrong person. And the way I look at it, there's 7 things that I look at, right? It's cash flow, credit, equity, time, talent, and relationships. So who's bringing what to the table? If you have 2 people that are both bringing money to the table, you probably are going to have some problems. If you got somebody that's bringing money and somebody that's bringing time, great relationship. So you really need to analyze what each of you is bringing to the table and make sure that you're complementary, that you're both bringing different things to the table. And so again, 7 things: cash flow, credit, equity, time, talent, relationships. First 4 are money related. Last 3 are time, talent, relationships. So,
and I just want to add to that too. I think just having a conversation and having multiple conversations with whatever particular individual you're looking to invest in, you kind of get a feel for them, you know, but you don't stop there. Like, you know, you do the diligence, exactly what Greg said on that person as well. But I think, you know, you want to have these conversations. You want to, again, spell out the expectations and what's the feeling that you get with that person. I think that your gut can sometimes tell you whether you should move forward or say, hey, this is some red flags coming up here. So
yeah, and I think I would even add to that, and I would be willing to bet most of you would agree that anytime you're going to be in a partnership, one of the other things you have to make sure is you plan what your exit strategy is going to be.
Maybe a couple.
Yes, very true. Because one of the things that is undoubtedly going to happen if you don't think about it is you're going to encounter a situation where one or more partners want to exit. And if you haven't planned for how that's going to happen in advance, now you're going to have to figure it out, and it becomes a much more heated discussion in many cases. So you don't want to plan.
Maybe a flip in and out before you think about going long term.
Yeah, totally agree. Before you get there. Jeremiah, how about you?
So my 2 things would be, obviously it's one that we just talked about. It's you can't overprove the deal. The deal is the deal. The numbers are the numbers. It's nothing you're going to do that's going to make this sweeter. It's not going to change a $150,000 house to a $250,000 house. It just don't exist. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the partnership part. Be careful who you get in bed with. Make sure you got 3 exit strategies. I like to say, watch them, date them, right? If you're thinking about getting in bed with somebody and you can have the best JV agreement out there. You don't have a good exit strategy, you get into bed with them, there's no getting out. That can be your money being wasted. Have clear expectations. What does that mean? All right, we both coming to the table 50-50. He has money, I have money, we're gonna get this done. Who's gonna manage the project? Who's gonna go out on Saturday if a fire happens and put it out? Whether it's a sub, or somebody working at the property, who has the time? If you know you have kids and you have your kids on the weekend and your partner has the same thing, who's gonna pick up the slack? Is it
Who breaks a tie too, if it's 50-50?
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I can speak on that currently. I got that current situation, right? So you're in a deal 50-50. Somebody walks up to you and say, hey, I'll give you money. Stop what you're doing. I'll give you money for the property right now. All right. Me, my mentality, take it while it gets good and move on. My partners, no, we can go to market, buddy. We can make more money. We could, or the economy could change next week and we back to square one. So those things happen. Well, guess what? It's a 50-50 deal. Who breaks that tie? Guess what? The deal is, the JV is to finish this agreement, right? So that's what we're doing. We're leaving that money on the table. We're walking away from it and we got to finish that deal. So even though you have the best JV agreement, think about those things. The other thing I'll say is, not just JV agreements, but lost my train of thought here. So you in bed with a partner, you moving forward, we both got money, and you don't know where to go with it, right? What should we do? What should we be doing? Where would the best place to be spending our money at? If that's not kind of set up early, you may just lose money at that way too. So.
Yep, I would agree. Todd, what are your thoughts on this?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So we were talking about, from your experience and the things that you've learned, what are some things you would make sure you did not do?
Okay, so I think being indecisive is the worst thing for a new investor. And the biggest thing I've learned is to be the first contract in a motivated seller's hand. So not dropping everything and getting a contract to them after I've made the decision to buy that needs to be immediate. And if you wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, sometimes they've already sold to somebody else because they were the first contract in the seller's hand. So if you're have analysis paralysis, you need to start doing something to try to be able to get a written offer in a motivated seller's hands as soon as possible.
Could not agree more. And I wanted to add one point to Jeremiah, you were talking about, especially the exit strategies. Just kind of give people an example if you haven't thought about this before. You're in a deal that is supposedly you and another person, everything's going great. You decide, hey, this is what we're going to do. Whatever is going, everything's going like you plan. And then all of a sudden, heaven forbid, something happens to that individual and they're no longer with us. And now whoever they have said is the beneficiary, or whatever their will says, or if that's not even planned, whoever the state says, now you're working with them. And if you haven't planned for that as a part of your exit strategy, it changes things incredibly. Right?
Jay, I also like keeping in your lanes, right? I started with rental properties, right? So the lower priced units. And all of a sudden I found a deal that was a $500,000 deal. I thought, wow, I can make a quick $100,000 there. How wonderful. Not realizing that there's categories within the asset class, right? It's still single family home, but I had no experience in more expensive homes like that. I didn't realize what the true costs were going to be. I didn't realize what it was cost to maintain a pool, right? And HOA fees and maintaining that yard and all the extra costs that go into a larger home like that, and how much longer it takes to sell, because I wasn't going to rent that home. I was just going to flip it because I've got all the contractors, I've got the contacts, I've got everything going, and I probably spent more money on luxury homes than I've ever spent on any other property, and made far, far, far less money on a luxury home, just because that's not my market, right? So I got outside my lane, and then getting into the rehabbing side, I've paid some rehabbers. They want 25% down. I paid a couple, and guess what? They're gone. Bye. So you really need to watch it, vet these people, understand who you're dealing with, get referrals. I've got too emotionally involved with you, right? And I want to improve this house. This is going to be such a great deal. And I get too emotionally involved with the house. It's an investment. Don't over improve it. Don't get emotionally involved with the house, right? Flip it, get on to the next one. Like Jeremiah said, right? It's a turning game. Get it quick and get it while the getting's good. I've made final payments to guys before the work was done. They, hey, this is coming up. I need this money now. And guess what? They tend not to come back. Well, there's still stuff to do. What's going on? And they just, that seems to be how it happens. Not exiting quickly enough. So I know I've got a loser, right? And not get it, just saying, cut the loss, be done with it, and move on and find a winner. So.
Those are great.
Jeremiah, add one more thing. We talked about partnerships. Another thing to think about is you want to do a partnership with someone and they tell you they've never done a partnership in real estate before. It may be a red flag. I'm going to say it's a yellow flag because now that person doesn't know how to work together with someone. They're used to being a boss. I've done 100 deals, but I've never partnered with anybody. Now it's going to be a new partnership that you're going into. And if you're new and it may be a charge thing, it may be an ego thing. So that's another thing to look out for.
Yep. And with any partnership, when everything's going great and money's being made, oh yeah, that's fine. We'll do whatever. It's when things go the other way that all of a sudden people start to disagree about how everything should be done. Right.
One more thing as far as standardization. So when I first started out as a property manager, a tenant said, well, I want to paint this room pink and I want to paint that one green. And I said, sure, no problem. Right. Until they leave and you go, oh my gosh, nobody likes a pink and a green room. Now I've got to repaint those things. So it quickly became standardized as much as you can. It's kind of like the airline. What's the airline? Southwest, right? They flew one plane and it was very easy for mechanics to work on that plane. There was only one plane to work on. So I found out that if I paint every house different, now I've got extra paint, you put it in the garage and by the time you come back to it, it's dried out and it's no good, right? Where if you use the same paint on every single property you're doing, you've always got paint. And then it's just touching up a wall. You're not cutting in the whole thing. It's a lot less time, tile or vinyl plank flooring, right? Get some extra, put it up in the attic, store it someplace. When one goes bad, you've got the same, especially with tile, you've got the same die cut, right? You've got the same, so it matches perfectly. It's really easy to do. Use the same plumbing fixtures, use the same light fixtures, use the same, again, as much standardization as you can do, especially if you're going to scale it all. If you're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses, if all of them are the same, you're going to save yourself a lot of hassle and save a lot of expense.
Great points. Great points. Todd?
So if you move to a new city, I do not believe you should partner with anybody right away. Unless you have the contract and you're making the rules. So if they
those relationships. For me, I'm probably going to get licensed in whatever state that is to try and understand, like Todd said earlier, the laws. It's also just easier for me to have access to the MLS, and I like to scour the MLS. I like to run the numbers and get a feel for the markets there. So you can utilize that tool to make yourself a little bit more familiar. But, you know, for me, flipping houses, I want to learn, you know, what are the building codes? Like Todd said too as well. It's a matter of trying to figure out if you're in a different state. I don't know much about basements. So what does that look like? Trying either, you know, on the first one, I might hire a GC or somebody that, you know, I don't always work with a GC. Sorry. But you know, I want to hire somebody that definitely knows exactly what they're doing, and I'm going to ask them a million questions. You know, my other half sitting over there, I used to ask him a ton of questions. You get annoyed and think I was challenging, but let me tell you, the more questions that I ask, the more I know my product, the more I understand the house and how I can better improve the product. I don't cut corners. One of the biggest things for me is the quality. So it's just immersing yourself and ask as many questions as possible, talk to as many people as possible, and get that local expertise.
Let me jump in. Sure. I want to make some. So I'm a licensed GC, and people say, "Hey, I'm flipping a house. I got to have a GC." I'm the first one to tell you that's not necessarily true. Okay, you don't need a GC. However, you need to know when you need a GC and when you don't need a GC. For instance, I'm going to add on another bathroom. Probably need a GC. Okay, I'm going to go renovate a bathroom. You may be okay with your local handyman. All right, I'm gonna put on a new roof. You might need a roofing contractor / GC. Knowing when you need one and when you don't, us as GCs, we're okay to miss a flooring job. It's all right. But if it's an addition, you bet your bottom dollar when you go to sell that house, somebody's going to want to see some permits being pulled. And that's when we come in. So that just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. Like in Florida, in my area, I 100%, you know, I know when I need a GC, I know when I need to pull permits. I know when I don't need to pull permits. So I have that in my back pocket if it's necessary. But in certain, you know, other states, like I don't know certain codes and what they require. So I might start out a job, maybe if it's a simple, like, you know, kitchen, floor, bathrooms, okay. But if I have to do, you know, certain other things as far as the basement, like what does that look like, right? So, I mean, I totally agree. You definitely have to know if you're not familiar when you have to use a GC and when you don't, because you don't always have to.
Great point. Greg?
I would echo what Todd said. I would do absolutely every event that I could possibly, I guess everybody said that, but I would do every event. I did do every event when I first joined CFRI. Everybody know what a PHP is, right? You go to all the classes, you get the points, you get, you know, your designation as PHP. So I did that, and I probably had double the amount of points that I needed by the time I did it, because I did every single class. I asked Buffy, hey, do you need any help? Right? Can I get half price because I'm going to come and help? Well, no, she didn't. Sometimes, you know, if there was somebody didn't show up.
You get a chicken sandwich though, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'll go pick up the chicken sandwiches, right? I'll do something. So, you know, I just think, and every time that I'd go to an event, even if I went to an event twice, so you're hearing the same speaker give the same talk. Right? Yep. I'm in a different point in my investing career. I hear things differently, right? So I'm picking up a little nugget that I wouldn't have picked up before because I wasn't ready to hear it. Yep. Right now, I'm ready to hear it. So every event that I go to, I'm picking up something that I can apply in one area or another, and it's great. The other thing that I do, when Todd talked about going to the class, the realtor's class, I would probably get licensed. I'm a broker, and so that's another way to make money, right? Okay. So when I'm meeting with people and saying, okay, how can I help you? It's more about keeping your mouth shut and listening to that individual on what their needs are than trying to structure the deal around their needs. If one of those needs is, you know, maybe they don't like to work with agents, great, then you're not going to promote that. But if it's somebody that's selling a house and they just don't know that they need an agent, you telling them that you're an agent and you can help them, now there's a commission there. So I would probably go to the class and get licensed to hopefully get some commission from brokerage.
Okay, Todd. What I was going to say, if you move to a new state or a new MLS system and you don't want to become a realtor, like in North Carolina, where I'm trying to do some deals now,
you're allowed to be an assistant. So I can be an assistant for a realtor here in Florida, which gives me almost full access to the MLS for $25 a year. And we have that ability with our MLS here to be an assistant. So find a realtor that you're like, and maybe even, pay part of their realtor dues unofficially and become their assistant, and which gives you full access to the MLS, which has a lot of benefits that not having it doesn't give you. But you don't have to be a realtor. It's just a really, really good plus.
Back to something that Todd said, finding the best realtor in the area. If you're licensed, you can just refer to that realtor. Right now, you're getting some cash in just for referring a deal. You put the deal together and said, Jeremiah, here's the person. They go and close the deal. You're getting a referral fee. So you're basically doing very little work and getting a nice referral fee.
Okay. Since you guys brought up the idea of having help and specifically the idea of GCs and whatnot, my next question is really for whoever wants to chime in and answer it. I think I already have a good idea of the answer, but we'll see, and we want to see what you tell the audience. In this new area, how much of the work are you going to do yourself to keep your cost low versus hire experts?
This is a tricky one. Sometimes it's not always cheaper to do your own work.
Most of the time.
The reason being is everybody's an expert in their field. I'm not a drywall guy. Can I do drywall? I can do drywall. It'll probably take me 4 days to do something that a drywall guy can come and knock out in 1 day. So how much of the work I'm gonna do, it just depends on what the cost is for the area and how much time do I have. For instance, my time right now is valuable, right? So if I'm gonna go and do something that somebody get paid $18 or $25 to do, that's not the best value for my time. I'd rather be searching out a deal. So it all depends. I would say I would prefer not to do any of it and sub it out or find somebody in that expertise.
I would absolutely agree with that. We've done about 250 homes. Probably the first 50, I did a large majority of those myself. I laid the tile, I pulled the toilets, I did a lot of that stuff. I learned that some of the stuff I actually really like to do, but I'm not good at any of it, right? I'm not timely. It takes forever. So if you're looking at doing that work yourself and you're saving money and you say, okay, this property that I should turn in 30 days is really going to take me 90 days, right? It's just not worth it. That extra 60 days, you could sell that house or rent that house out and get your money or get an extra 60 days of rent. It's just not worth it. Drywalling is an art. I know some guys drywall. It's amazing what they can do with drywall. I'm just shocked. So, I would basically not do any of the work unless that's your area of expertise, and you can do it.
I'm gonna add on to this too. Yeah. I mean, for me, I know my costs. I have them pretty much down to a T. So even if I go into a new area, I would factor in some adjustments there. So at the end of the day, my bread and butter is building relationships, networking, getting out there and talking to people. So for me, I'm probably not going to do much of anything. Am I handy? I can do some things here and there. If I have to come in and touch up some paint because I lost a contractor because I don't, it's new in that whole thing, will I come and do it? Yes. I've been on the floor scrubbing. I've done touch up paint. I've done things that I've had to do, just whatever it takes to make it happen to get the deal done. But my bread and butter is getting out there, building relationships. If you know your numbers, if you know your costs, then you factor in that fluctuation or that minor difference, whatever it may be, into your numbers when you're buying the property.
All right. Jay, I had a sheet and I went room by room in each item and I said, how much is it going to cost me in materials and how much is it going to cost me in labor? And probably for the first, I don't know how many properties I did that with, I painstakingly went through that process with each property just to see how much I was going to spend on that particular property. You do that enough times, right? Now you can kind of walk through and go, okay, this. You can almost do it in your head. But just getting, the first couple times, the first dozen times that you do it, you need need to spend the time and effort and figure out what it's going to cost for a square shingles, what the tile costs are. You get the best price at wherever tiles are us or wherever you're going to get your flooring and just figuring out what those costs are and how you can do it cheaper and better.
Luckily, I'm not handy at all. So the only thing that I will do, and I think you should consider doing, is painting, because you can do it on nights and weekends where it won't interfere with all the other trades. So painting is the only thing I think you should conceivably do yourself. But anything else, no chance.
I made a terrible mistake here too, Jay. My wife is here and she heard that I did that work. So honey, I can't do that work.
I wasn't gonna bring that part up, but that's all right.
The other thing I'll say is, I guess my first 2, maybe 3 deals, I did a lot of the work myself. And the one thing I noticed is how much time are you losing and how many deals are you missing? Because you're spending your time painting,
Yes,
landscaping, messing around with cabinets, scrubbing a toilet. I mean, let the professionals do it and do what you do best. If you analyze numbers, you analyze deals, and you're great at relationship building, spend your time doing that and put a cost for that into what you're doing, instead of you trying to set a toilet which later leaks and now you need more remediation of some sort.
nice plug, Jeremiah. Lindsay, did you have something else you want to?
No, I actually was gonna say painting can be an art too. I don't trust myself to paint a house anymore after I realized what I was doing wrong.
Yeah, I don't care how many times I've tried to paint. I still go back and look at it and go, how come you can kind of see that one brush stroke? I don't know what it is.
Jay, I had another one. It's when you're filling out that form, they had the title company send you your cash. Double check your account numbers and your routing numbers. If it's 10,000 or more, double check it. If it's 100,000 or more, triple check it. Right? Don't ask me how I know.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. All right, we are getting close to the top of the hour. I wanted to try and save time for a couple of questions. If we had any either online, Peter, you can let me if we do. We do? What do you got back there?
There's no question so far.
There are no questions so far? Is that what you're saying?
There's no question.
Oh, okay. How about in the room? You may have a question for our panelists in the room. We answered all of your questions. There's one. Peter, can you bring the microphone over there?
So while he's waiting.
Yes.
One of the questions that he asked that I wrote down, what would you do to find money people if you move to a new town?
Yes, thank you.
There's 2 things I would do that I think are really cool and they're fun, and you can meet people, rich people. You want to find rich people. So me, I play pickleball. So I would wear a shirt to the pickleball game that says, I pay 7.5%, ask me about it. And I would wear that to the pickleball court every single day until people started asking me and they knew I was looking for money. 2, and this is getting back to my political experience, I would volunteer on a political campaign. And I would specifically ask them, can I go around and pick up the checks? Because that's one of the hardest, easiest things you can do in a political campaign, because they want to put the money in the bank right away. So there's a daily rounds to the lawyers' offices and the rich people's homes to pick up checks. I would tell the campaign, I'm willing to do that for you. But volunteering on a political campaign, you can meet a lot of rich people at those political events. So those are 2 things I'd do in a new town.
Excellent. And I appreciate you pointing that out about that question too. I had forgotten to ask that. Question over here.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge. This past 2 years has been crazy with Corona. How did you not recover, but how did you balance it with pre-Corona? And did you take anything from those past 2 years that you will continue with going forward?
Great question. You might want to take that one.
I'll take it. So me being a contractor, I leveraged the market. So when COVID hit, obviously the first 2 months, I mean, I went from 17 jobs to probably 2, and those were being commercial due to the shutdown, which kind of held strong. But as you know, everything picked up, remodeling came up. So I was able to transition over into renovations and still make it. But a lot of things that came out of it was I had a lot of people who had vacant lots who wanted to get rid of them. So I stopped focusing on housing as the housing market kind of went crazy. And we focused on just picking up properties, land properties and going on. I guess the key to that is not having so much out that you don't know what to do when things go wrong, being able to leverage different things, probably help.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you talk to a lot of people that were in real estate, I think for me, it was one of the busiest 2 years that I've had, especially on the flips. Anybody in construction can tell you that as soon as, things started picking back up again, people, it's been crazy. You can't get people booked out. I mean, contractors are delayed. How long?
I like how she looks at him.
3 months, right? So, and another thing too, the one thing that I'll say that we've had to adjust significantly in the flipping business is order your materials either as soon as you can, whether it's the day you close, if you're comfortable, you're confident you're closing on the deal, get them before windows. Right now in my area, 5-6 months, it's crazy. So it's just being able to adjust and understand that the delays in materials right now are insane. I'm pretty sure you can touch on that too. So that's definitely one of the biggest transitions that I've had to make personally, is just knowing that you have to get the materials immediately in order for you to keep on time with your projects.
Okay.
I think from a property management standpoint, I was really concerned when it first started to see how many people are actually going to be able to make their rent. I was pleasantly surprised that a lot of people did, and then the programs came out where the government stepped in to help. So that I think those programs were extremely helpful. But I think on a bigger, broader aspect of it all is that you look at, the economy goes through ups and downs, and you just got to expect that there's going to be downturns, and there's going to be coronaviruses, and there's going to be housing, issues. You look and you say in 87, we had a huge stock market crash, right? And then in 1999, we had a savings and loan meltdown, right? And in 2000, we had the bubble and the collapse with the dot-coms. And then, in 2008, we had that. So you just see the cycles, and you got to kind of realize that there's going to be some down cycles, and you need to put some money away for those down cycles. And your markets are going to change. How you're going to market, what you're going to market for is going to change as those market cycles happen. So what works today isn't going to work tomorrow.
And I just want to, add to that too. I mean, right now, the way that how crazy the market has been over the past couple of years, and still continue to be, it's definitely a seller's market. I mean, I personally have just been trying to capitalize on every opportunity that I possibly can while it's still hot. That way, I have money. We put it aside, and you start, you build that capital for, whatever investment that you want to do later on. But, as of right now, I'm just been capitalizing on every opportunity.
All right, John.
Partial, my business wholesaler was really good at evaluating properties without seeing them. So I think today's day, and since COVID started, you have to be able to evaluate properties. Before, it was just my model, but I'd say the biggest thing is getting sellers to take really, really, really good pictures, or more importantly, to take a video and make it private on YouTube so that you don't have to go look at the house, and you can have a good understanding of what needs to be done and how much it's going to cost to fix. And if you can get them to do it live, and you can ask questions while they're showing you, that's really important. So why drive from College Park to Port Orange if you can sit there and do it on a video and get the same information that you need? So that would be the thing. It can save money and time, because you can say, I don't want to
take advantage of the technology, right?
Well, yeah, you can say, wouldn't you rather me not bringing my COVID into your house? And so I think the sellers are more apt to help you get that information.
All right, well, I'd love to say we have time for plenty more questions, but it is now almost 8 o'clock and we do want to make sure we end on time. So as promised, we are going to transition for just a moment to our giveaway. If you guys will just stay put for a moment. Is Mike Brady here? Mike Brady, come on down. You have won a Home Depot gift card. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna get my exercise in now. Let's see, Tracy Freeman. Tracy, there you are. You are very welcome. And yes, this is all done by a very sophisticated computer algorithm that picks these out ahead of time. I do not pick them. Ed Campbell. There's Ed. Congratulations, Ed. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. All right, we got one more. And that would be going to Carmela Stewart. Is Carmela here? Hey, there's Carmela. Congratulations. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Quick last words from our panelists.
I want to share the 3 best ways to create, build, and keep wealth.
Okay.
So 3 ways.
3.
Ready? First one?
Yes.
Stay married.
Okay. I like it. I like it. My wife would like that too.
Second one, raise self-sufficient kids.
I like it. All right. What's number 3?
Third one, stay healthy.
That's good too. Very, very good advice. Last words, Lindsey?
This is a tough one. Honestly, just get out there and make something happen. I know that when I first started, I was definitely having analysis paralysis, and it wasn't until I made that first jump to just get out there and do it and just make it happen. Don't be afraid, ask questions. Don't be,
make mistakes.
You're going to make mistakes. It's just how do you handle the mistakes? You move forward, you learn from them, and you don't make it again. But just get out there and make something happen. Just, quit thinking that you need to absorb every single little bit of information and knowledge to make a leap of faith, and just do it. Just get out there and do it, period. That's it.
No, I agree. And I've always said, and I've told both of my kids this, if you have not made a mistake, you have not learned anything. All right, Jeremiah.
Be persistent. If you figure wholesaling is your thing, be persistent in wholesaling. If finding a deal you can fix and flip and learning how to analyze is your thing, be persistent in doing it. If buying tax liens are your thing, be persistent, follow it through, and do it. Once you pick something, just be persistent in it, and you'll be fine.
And Todd.
Find somebody within CFRI that you like and trust to go over deals with. Because you're going to have questions and you're not going to be able to be 100% certain. And you've got to find that person that you know is not going to steal that deal, that'll give you their valued opinion on whether you should buy the deal or not. If it's in Deltona, I call Dave Dostal. If it's Kissimmee, I call Alan Daniels. And they know the neighborhoods like the back of their hands. So why not use that information to your benefit? But find somebody you like and trust to go over deals with.
All right. How about a huge round of applause for our panelists tonight? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Happy holidays, everyone. And we hope to see you in January and at some of our other county and focus group meetings. Remember, if you're not a member, get signed up. Take care and drive safely.
Orange County meetings tomorrow night at the CFRI headquarters.
Excellent. Thank you, Todd. And don't forget, meeting after the meeting, Ale House.
There's some t-shirts up here for a reason.
If anybody wants t-shirt, here.